Hello, my name is Taya, and I'm the host of the Police Accountability Report. As you well know, there's one purpose to the show, and that is holding police accountable. And to do that, sometimes it entails following up on an investigation that we've done, and to let you know that the work that we do has actually affected our viewers' lives. And today, we have some dramatic revelations. Our first breaking news update involves the arrest of Randal Thompson. He's a resident of Texas who was driving home with a car he had just purchased for a police auction when he was pulled over and arrested. Let's listen to him tell his story.
As a gullible person that trusts the police, I said, well, sure, there's nothing in there. Go ahead. Well, he searched the vehicle, didn't find anything. I mean, I had a briefcase. He had that thing ripped all apart. Okay, now during this hour and a half to 2 hour traffic stop, he searches my vehicle 3 more times. He doesn't find anything. At the point where I'm like, are we being detained? He said, well, Mr. Thompson, I'd like to look through your vehicle one more time. So the 4th search, he reaches into my truck and he runs out of there and he grabs my phone and throws it on the ground and he swings me around and he's arresting me. And he's got the gear shifter knob off of the truck in his hands. My son told me, he said it looked like he pulled something out of his pocket and threw down there.
So, Stephen, there has been a big update in the case. Tell us what's happened.
Well, the Denton County prosecutors have dropped all charges against Mr. Thompson. After our video was published and after our follow-up investigation, a paralegal contacted him and wrote a motion to dismiss, which they did dismiss, and now it's just a matter of finding out whether Denton is going to be responsible for damages, because basically the thesis or the basic thrust of the legal argument was that the stop was illegal. Let's remember that Mr. Thompson was not breaking any laws when he was driving. The cop came up right behind him and forced him over and then pulled him over and then searched his car 4 times, which I think raises a lot of questions. So this is a good news story. The charges have been dropped, and I think our video did help.
So, Stephen, you reached out to Denton prosecutors and found out some interesting facts about the city. What did you learn?
Well, they're heavily reliant on writing tickets for traffic violations to people who don't live in that area, which is the case of Mr. Thompson. And they were very unwilling to disclose how much that revenue generated for the city or how much they spend on policing. They forced us to file a Texas Public Information Act request. On top of that, I spoke to prosecutors several times and said, what is the basis for this? I said, did you know and did you realize that he had just bought this car at police auction? I made that very clear to him and said, why are you still pursuing this case? They would not comment on the record. So, I don't know if that helped, but certainly, it's great news to see that Mr. Thompson now is no longer burdened with this legal issue.
Now, as you know, 2 weeks ago, we reported on the case of Mr. Lufti Salim, a Toledo, Ohio cab driver who was sitting in a Walmart parking lot waiting for a customer he had just dropped off in a pharmacy when a Lucas County sheriff approached him and this brutal arrest followed. Let's listen and see what happened in Mr. Lufti's own words.
Car. You need to tell me, officer.
Go and step off the car.
Hold on, officer. Officer, hold on.
Come on.
Don't force me. Don't force me. Hold on. What I did wrong? Don't touch me. Don't touch me, officer.
Get out of the car!
What I did wrong?
Now!
What I did wrong, officer? What I did wrong? This guy, you come and start me.
293, Lucas.
Officer,
Start me a Sylvania Township unit.
Officer.
Step out of the car.
Officer. Okay, hold on. No, let's talk.
You want to? I'm going to tase you if you don't get out of the car.
For what reason? I am getting off.
Out of the car.
No.
Hands up against the...
No, hold on. What are you doing? What are you doing? Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Officer, leave me alone, officer. Call me supervisor. Officer, leave me alone. What are you doing?
So during our reporting, Stephen pressed the Lucas County Sheriff's Office for information. Stephen, tell us what you learned.
Well, it's really interesting. We got a hold of the police report, and there's a couple interesting facts here. Number one, this police officer, I think, was working in a detail. He was being paid by Walmart at the time. Yeah. Wow. He said he was working a special project on overtime or something. So he was being paid by Walmart, which may have contributed to his aggression.
Right, especially because he said there was some connection between him and the manager who had called the police on Mr. Salim.
Right. And he piled up the charges, 5 charges: resisting arrest, menacing, obstructing official business, parking standing in a place where signs prohibit stopping. So he piled on the charges and then said he towed the vehicle because it was abandoned, which strikes me as ironic because he had arrested the man. So, but really, another thing we found out was that he had been disciplined. He had been disciplined. They said the officer was disciplined, but they haven't released the specific charges or what happened or the outcome of that discipline. I do know he's still with the Lucas County Sheriff's Department. So, there's been some progress on the case, and we're going to keep bugging them for more information. But right now, it seems like there might have been some of that political economy working where the police officer was actually working for the Walmart and making extra money and maybe felt like he had to go out and really screw with this guy because he's getting paid by Walmart. We're still looking into that, but that's what it appears.
Just last week, we reported on the story of Michelle Lucas, a grandmother and community activist who is looking at 2 years in prison after she passed along a $100 bill that she received from a coworker at the pizza shop. Stephen, you reached out to the prosecutor's office, to the public defender's office, and there have actually been some really positive changes. Tell us what's happened.
Well, I sent a series of questions to, both the Sheriff's Department, which investigated this case, and I sent them to the public defender, asking specifically, because the employee who had given her the bill admitted that he gave her the bill, why were they prosecuting Michelle Lucas? Was this retaliation? Had they spoken to this man? And it turns out that he had actually vanished. Well, what happened? Shortly after I had asked these questions, the public defender called Michelle Lucas, the head of the public defender in the county, and he took over the case. And the lawyer she had previously is now gone, and she is going to withdraw her. Well, she is withdrawing her plea. So as you can see, there's been some progress, and hopefully she's getting rightful representation. And I think this is a good outcome overall.
So finally, Stephen, I have to ask you about some recent developments here in our hometown of Baltimore City. And it has to do with the gun trace task force. Roughly 9 officers who were charged with robbing residents, dealing drugs, and stealing overtime. Stephen, what have you learned?
Well, the Baltimore Police Department right behind us, unceremoniously posted this report that said that the officers in the gun trace task force were paid after they were charged. Right. And some of them paid quite a bit amount. Officer Gondo, who was one of the 7 original officers, was paid roughly $53,000. The money was deposited in their accounts through direct deposit.
So you're telling me that these officers were being paid after they had been convicted of crimes against residents?
They were paid after they were charged. It's not clear because they redacted a lot of the information if the payments went after they were convicted. But clearly, after they were charged and put on what's known officially as leave without pay, which means you're supposed to not be paid. Right. And so the report said that the city central payroll processing bureau was not communicating with the personnel division at the Baltimore Police Department, and the city was able to get the money back. But it really raises a lot of questions because several of the officers, it was $10,000, $9,000, $50,000, and of course one of the central thrusts of the investigation into these officers is how they were getting overtime pay while they were on vacation or not showing up to work. So really it raises more questions about how money is wasted and how police officers, you're sitting in jail charged with serious crimes and you're still getting your paycheck. It's just incredible. The city was able to claw back the money, as I said, but still it raises questions that have not been answered about how this happened. And I will say also that the city has still yet to release an audit of the overtime system. They released sort of a very short version of it, not the full version. So there's still a lot of questions about city payroll and police officers and where all this money is going.
So this update is just a reminder that the PAR works for you to hold police accountable. We do investigations, we follow up, and whenever possible, we make positive changes in the lives of the people who reach out to us. So we want you to know that if you have evidence of police misconduct or brutality, please reach out to us and we might be able to help. Please email us your tips privately at par@therealnews.com. And of course, you can always reach out to me directly at Taya's Baltimore on Twitter or Facebook. My name is Taya Graham. This is Stephen Janis. We're your hosts of the Police Accountability Report. Please be safe out there.